All right, folks, we're going to get started. We have a robust program tonight. I'm Ruffian Tittmann. I'm the Executive Director of the Friends of the Wissahickon. Welcome to our annual public projects meeting where we tell you what we've done, what we're doing, and what we think we're going to do next. So we have an agenda, 1 and 2 I will go over. We have Shawn Green who will give us our volunteer project report. We have friends from PWD with some project updates, and PWD's been with us the last several years. And then after PWD, we have a project update from OTIS, a very exciting study on safety around the Wissahickon. I think we have one site in particular that we're looking at tonight. And then our big finish with our program project manager, Pauline Berkowitz, and give an overview of, again, what we've done, what we're doing, and what we plan to do next. We're going to try to advance the slide again. Ooh, look. All right. We're FOW. We're 101, or as I've been saying, 100 and wonderful this year. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We do a lot of things, infrastructure, we leverage volunteers, we are restoring habitat, and we do a lot of capital projects, both small ones, medium size with volunteers and contractors, and really big things, or at least really big things to us, like our beautiful bridge that you're going to hear all about and that you've been hearing about for years, but is now done. So I think everyone here is a volunteer, a member, concerned Wissahickon person. Is anyone here new to FOW? Welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming to hear about what we do. And there's loads more on our website. It is also very robust. I'd like to highlight our staff. We are right now a staff, including myself, of 12. We have an open position for a field coordinator. And we'll be very excited to bring that person on soon. I always like to give an overview. We don't just work willy-nilly. We're guided by our strategic plan, which carries us through 2026. Our ecological land management plan, which was developed with the Academy of Natural Sciences here in Philadelphia and was published in 2018. Our sustainable trails initiative plans, most recently our completion plan, which was developed in 2019, and we're working through those final projects that were identified there. And then partnerships, as which you'll hear more about tonight from our city partners, Parks and Recreation and the Water Department. And tonight we also have OTIS with us to hear more. And with that exciting introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Shawn Green. I will be back at the end to help with Q&A. If you have questions for our partners as we get to that, we'll take questions in the room for briefly after their sessions. Folks online, there's a form that you can submit those, and I will ask your questions at the end. So I'm really going to try to stay on track. Shawn's going to help us.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's always an honor to be the one who gets to come and report on all the accomplishments of our fantastic volunteers. 2024 was, am I advancing with I'm sorry, with this or, okay. Okay, gentleman's choice. 2024 was another banner year for FOW. Not only did we celebrate 100 years, but we had some records that we broke, including most individual volunteers, which was over 2,000, most volunteer hours, which was over 19,000, which is incredibly impressive. We ran 193 volunteer service days. This includes service days that were open to the public. Many people in this room have been at some of those, as well as corporate groups, school groups. And I do want to highlight that 86 of those days were run by David Bauer and his quality Q team in the back, who have been at work since the pandemic. And overall, we did a lot of work. We removed 17 tons of litter from the watershed, which is a lot, I know. And we provided an awful lot of outreach, primarily through our volunteer trail ambassadors, many of which are here tonight. 44 guided walks and talks that were free and open to the public, and over 200 outreach shifts throughout the park, which is excellent. And among many other accomplishments, I do want to take a moment to highlight some in particular. We've got a lot of trails in the park, about 55 miles worth. They're kind of our pride and joy. And primarily the people that are taking care of those trails are our volunteers. We improved 38.6 miles of trail, which is the most we've ever done in 1 year, which is huge. That is mostly done by our volunteer crew leaders. We had started several years ago this initiative, the Zone Steward Program, sort of like Adopt a Trail. We've got a group of crew leaders all throughout the park doing corridor clearing and clearing drains. So they're doing a lot of that work. We also cleared 83 down trees off of the natural surface trails. Many thanks to Varian Bosch down there. He checked you, and he's our field operations manager who does the heavy lift of kind of coordinating that work. But on top of that, we had two larger trail projects that we completed with volunteers. One was a 15 rock staircase located, oh, does this have a laser? Right here. That is on the Orange Trail, or actually connecting the Orange Trail to the White Trail just north of Valley Green Road. So it skips over a terrible section of trail that was eroding. We also, oh, thank you. We also rerouted a section of the Yellow Trail just north of Cathedral Road and a section of the trail that leads to Houston Meadow. So we closed down 600 feet of awful, unsustainable trail and replaced it with about 1,000 feet of more sustainable trail that follows the contour and provides a lot safer access for our mini trail users. Also want to give a big shout out to our structures crew. We've got a couple of them here today. These are a group of volunteers that join us every Tuesday morning for a wide variety of improvement projects through the park. So if you've ever walking past a bench that's broken and then you come back a couple days later, a week later, and it's fixed, those are the guys who are fixing it. So on top of fixing benches and fences and picnic tables, we did a couple larger projects with them. The photo on the right is the very rustic live edge benches at Valley Green, completely rebuilt by structures crew this year. They also improved the warming shed right next to it and expanded on the storage as a thank you to our friends at the Valley Green Inn, and reshingled the structure at the Bluestone Bridge, which is one of many structures that we're going to be working on over the many years. Habitat, our fight against the invasives continue. And this year we cleared over 126,000 square feet of invasives and planted over 1,100 native plants. I know it sounds like a lot. That was trees, shrubs, and a lot of plugs and live stakes. So a lot. And we had, what is that? 5 locations that we are continuing to, that we planted at this year, and we'll continue to go back and add to and maintain. I want to give an update to one of our newer programs. This is our Junior Stewards program. We completed our 2nd year of this. This was designed to provide work experience in environmental stewardship for high school students, specifically within the school district of Philadelphia. So we had 3 interns with us for the entire school year of 2023 to 2024. We had 5 interns join us for a spring break trail building experience, as well as a summer trail building experience. And we currently have 4 students for the current school year. And it's been just a great experience to work with and educate them, because they are the next generation of stewards. And we're excited to see where this program grows. We already have 2 different programs for the summer coming up that we're really excited about. So all that to say, it's a new year and we're ready to break some new records. So consider this your formal invitation to come join us at some of these days. Once things get warmer, we've got service days on more days of the week than not. If those times don't work, no one's stopping you from going out and cleaning trash on your own. We did start a program during the pandemic, still going strong. So look it up. It's called the Wissahickon program. You can do your own cleanup. And if you're part of a corporate group or religious group or school group or any other organization that wants to come out, we'd love to have you. Just reach out to us and we'll figure out what the best fit is. And a couple dates to keep in mind. These are some big spring dates that we have coming up. You'll notice April is very heavy on the spring cleanups, including a Lincoln Drive closure and cleanup. And if you've never done that before, you don't know what you're missing. Come out, and it's really cool to walk on Lincoln Drive when it's closed. So check out the website, get involved with us, and ask questions at the end if you have any questions. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kevin from the Water Department.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. It's nice to see so many people supporting Friends of Wissahickon. My name's Kevin. I work in the Ecological Restoration Design Unit in the Green Stormwater and Stream Design Unit of the Philadelphia Water Department. I'm here to talk about a few PWD projects that we've been working on. This is a disclaimer for the presentation. It's always essential. The data is accurate today. So first I'll start off by talking about what is ecological restoration, what does our group work on, and then I'll talk about 3 different projects. So first, what is ecological restoration? Our group works to restore waterways within the city of Philadelphia. We use stream design, stream restoration techniques, along with wetland enhancement and creation. And our projects focus on PWD, infrastructure protection, and we work within regulatory guidelines, and we work to promote some stream improvement, corridor improvement projects. On the screen here, we have 4 different categories with some functional goals that we work in, and they're all interconnected, and they're often all related in the projects that we work on. So the first project I'll talk about is Parkline Drive Interceptor and Gorgas Chute and Outfall. This project has 2 different site locations. The first of which is located at it's accessed on the White Trail at Harvey Street and Parkline Drive. The second site location is accessed on the Gorgas Trailhead. It's right at the corner of Henry Ave and Fountain Street. This project's currently at construction substantially complete, which means that the bulk of construction is done, and we're working with the contractor to finish up a few punch list items. Some of the project features that I'll talk about, and go from the next slide. So the first site location is Parkline Drive Interceptor. So what is an interceptor? It's typically a larger sewer that transports the storm fall from the collecting sewers down to the treatment plants. You can see the interceptor on the project on the picture on the left. This site location, you could see some mortar repairs that we performed on the culvert, some mortar repairs up top on the interceptor. You could see some of the rocks called riprap that we used on the stream banks to stabilize the area. And we used some erosion control matting to also stabilize the area. Since these pictures were taken, there's been some landscaping on site, and the stream started to naturalize a little bit. It's looking nice out there. The next site is the Gorgas Chute and Outfall. This is over at Henry and Fountain Street. On the left here, it's a very steep slope. At the top of the slope is Henry Ave. You can see in the picture, there's some nice landscaping, but what you don't see is the storm sewer that we installed underneath the ground. The sewer conveys flow from Henry Ave to an outfall and then down to the Gorgas stream. On the right, we have a chute that conveys stormwater as well. It's just a different method. You can see the outfall repairs we did up at the top of the slope and some of the rock we used to stabilize the area. The next project is Upper Gresham Tunnel and outlet stabilization. This project's located at the intersection of Woodbrook Lane and Anderson Street. It's in East Mount Airy, but it's right on the border of Chestnut Hill, just southeast of Gresham Valley Drive. This project's at 70% design, which means that we've received the substantially complete designs. They were approved, and we're working with external utilities, and we're putting together permit packages. Some of the project features you see here, I'll outline on the following slides. And right now, the design schedule puts construction in spring 2026, but that's always susceptible to change as the project advances. I wanted to highlight some trail impacts on this project and the following project. There's a newly established Gresham Trail out there. It looks very nice. We've been working with Friends of Gresham Valley to coordinate the activity on this trail, and we'll continue to coordinate with them throughout construction. So we have existing conditions. I'll start with the picture on the right. You can see an exposed water main. It's a 36-inch steel transmission main. It's exposed for about 15 to 20 feet, running through a stone culvert that is starting to erode and collapse on itself. So right now the water main is quite vulnerable to tree and impact. On the left, you can see a bank that's starting to erode immediately downstream of the culvert. And our project is going to address both of these locations. So for the proposed conditions, we have an overlay of the area. I'll start on the right. There's a lot of colors. There's a lot going on. It's a very dense project. So you can see the yellow right in the middle of the project of the picture is the culvert that we were just looking at. That's the proposed location. And the transmission main that we are looking at will be redirected underneath the culvert. So it'll be protected. It'll be protected from storm flow and any impact in the area. And then the orange and the purple and the yellow is the stream reconstruction. It'll provide some vertical and horizontal stability in the area for high flow. On the left, we have a sewer lining aspect to our project. That's the full scope of the sewer lining. It's a low impact alternative to sewer reconstruction. It requires very little excavation, and it provides some additional service life to the existing sewers in the area. The next project is Devil's Pool Arch Bridge. This project is located in the heart of the Wissahickon, in between Valley Green Road and Livesey Lane. I'm sure many of you have seen it on Forbidden Drive across the creek. It's a beautiful masonry bridge. It's an arch bridge. And so currently the design status is 50%. What that means is we have received the substantially complete design plans. We're working through the review, not only us, but a lot of our partners, FOW and Parks and Rec, and some internal units like our operations units are reviewing the plans. Some of the project features I'll talk about on the following slides. And just like the last project, this project, the design schedule puts construction around spring of 2026. And since this project is located in such a remote area, we're going to be using the white and orange trails to access the site. So we expect some trail impacts in that area. So here's some pictures of the existing conditions. In the bottom left, the largest picture is the stone masonry bridge. It spans across Gresham Valley or Gresham Creek. This is not a pedestrian bridge. It's a bridge for the interceptor sewer that runs along Wissahickon Creek. In the top, the smallest picture is an example of some deteriorating concrete that we'll be repairing to protect the sewer. In the top right, it's a deteriorating masonry wall. That's the foundation of the bridge. We'll be replacing some missing stones and some missing mortar and removing some of the concrete repairs that were previously made. And then the final picture in the bottom right is the approach to the span of the bridge. And you can see the gate that's used as an anti-climb barrier. We'll be replacing that. We'll be installing some fall protection measures, and we'll be installing a gate to the approach. And then on the final slide here are some details from the plans. They're a bit technical, but I thought the picture on the left kind of showed how we expect to replace the cap, the concrete cap on the sewer. The picture in the middle shows how the sewer is rested within the bridge. It's very fascinating how they built this bridge in the late 1800s. I've seen some pictures. It's very impressive. And then on the right here is how we expect to replace the mortar across the bridge. Replace it with some stone, and then replace the mortar so it'll look very nice and cohesive. So with that, that's my presentation, and I'll be open to a few questions.
About funding, particularly whether there's any federal infrastructure funding supporting these projects.
That's a good question. These projects will be funded through the capital improvement program for the Philadelphia Water Department. There's no grants right now. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
I had a question, just since there's no one in the room.
Yep.
Question about the rocks.
Rocks. Yes. We have yes. Yeah. We have a few quarries in the area that we work with. I don't know them by name just yet, but there are a few that we return to, and we try to work to make it look as naturalized as possible when we're installing the rock. No, it'll continue to be a utility bridge. So we're gonna install the anti-climb barriers. There's going to be no access across the bridge. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to make a slight height adjustment here. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, thanks so much for having us here this evening. My name's Lydia Kenselar. This is my colleague, Jacob Elliott. We are part of the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems, or OTIS. And we have the great privilege of helping to make our city streets safer. So where we see streets that have a lot of traffic safety issues, we try and address those to make sure that people can get to our fantastic assets like parks and schools safely. So we are here tonight to talk to you about a project that's in the planning phase. So we don't have funding to construct this yet, but we're here starting to get ideas about how to improve Walnut Lane. And we're going to give you a brief overview of kind of where we are in this process, how we get to design options for the street, and then what our next steps are. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jacob.
Thank you. So the project is on Walnut Lane between Henry Avenue and Wayne Avenue. So it crosses the Wissahickon. It starts at the beginning of a shared use path that PennDOT installed in 2022 that ends at Walnut Lane. And then we also have a little spur down the Wissahickon from Walnut Lane to Old Rittenhouse Town Lane. So really, just to give a little basis of what the existing conditions and the challenges that we see on Walnut Lane are. We've seen a considerable crash history on Walnut Lane. Anybody that uses it probably has a similar experience. There's reckless driving, there's things like that. We have bus stop access and safety concerns. There are lots of elderly users of Walnut Lane. There's a lot of desire to use the bus facilities, but very minimal, bus shelters and things to that nature. We have a large elderly and student population that rely on the buses. We have many schools to the eastern end of the corridor, as well as, connections to other transit. The line striping on the roadway is quite faded. There's an inconsistent edge of the road, as you can see in that bottom left picture, right by Bluebell Park. And there's also sidewalk gaps. And then some of the opportunities of, Walnut Lane. We have a great community interest in providing upgraded bike facilities on this roadway. As I said earlier, there's a side path that extends on Henry Avenue from Schoolhouse Lane all the way to Walnut Lane. So there's that desire to have an all ages and abilities connection from that point, specifically into the park. We, heard interest as part of a planning process for another project called the West Germantown Neighborhood Bikeways. That, really this is a desired connection between the Roxborough and Germantown neighborhoods. And we really want to, hear what people want, where they want to go. This is on the city's high quality bike network, which is a subset of roadways that were identified for these all ages and abilities bike facilities, so that anybody aged 8 to 80 can feel comfortable riding a bike and accessing amenities. It is also on a proposed high frequency bus route. The Route 65 is a 30-minute max today, and it's proposed to be 10 to 15-minute max headway in the future. And obviously, there is connections to trails, the regional rail facility at Tulpehocken Station, and parks and schools. So some considerations on the street design. Walnut Lane changes drastically throughout this corridor. The beginning of the roadway from Henry to Magdalena is bounded by Arrow Field to the north and the Walnut Lane Golf Course to the south. It has a right-of-way of 56 feet. From Magdalena to the roundabout, we have a variable right-of-way that goes over the Walnut Lane Bridge. The roundabout obviously was improved. I believe it was put in and improved in around 2020, 2021. From the roundabout to Wissahickon, we have a much larger right-of-way width. It's about 80 feet. But as the one picture that we showed, that edge of pavement is a little variable. There's no sidewalk connections on the park side. Our right-of-way on Wissahickon from Walnut to Rittenhouse Town is about 60 feet. We have parking on both sides. We have, one travel lane in each direction. And then from Wissahickon to Morris, we have a right-of-way of 61 feet. So this gives us opportunities to do different things and perhaps not uniform treatments across the whole corridor, but we want to, hear what the community wants and desires for the access and the safety in this area. We wanted to share a survey link. This has questions about, what are you looking to see? What are your preferred improvements? I believe this is also going to be distributed. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to rush to take a photo right now, but we would love for you to take this. We would love, anybody who uses Walnut Lane, anybody who uses the park. We want to hear how you want to access. And this asks questions, about your preferred treatment types, how you would feel about certain facilities being in the roadway. And yeah, we would really love for you guys to take that. And so some of the tools that we're asking for feedback on are things like center line hardening. We've heard concerns about people crossing the center line of the roadway, specifically around the curves. Walnut Lane is quite curvy. Coming down Morris around Four Freedom's home, that center line is completely gone. We have the option to install separated bike lanes on part of this project. This can be using paint and posts like you might see in other parts of the city, or other treatments. Side path or two-way bike lanes can potentially be installed. Signal improvements to improve crossing times at locations with heavy pedestrian volumes, as well as coordination to make sure that, the vehicles are able to travel through as well as the pedestrians. Looking at improving and providing traffic calming along Walnut Lane. So installing things like speed cushions or speed humps is something that we're looking at. And improving the bus stops, the access to those bus stops and the facilities themselves. So whether it's providing crossings to access the bus stops so that you're not walking across the street, or a bus shelter so you have somewhere to sit while you're waiting for the bus. And then I'm going to hand it back to Lydia.
All right, thanks, Jacob. So this is our project timeline. Right now, we're in the initial feedback phase. So we'll have this survey open for about a month or so. Again, it's going to be shared out with participants via email afterwards. So feel free to forward it to neighbors or friends in the area or who use Walnut Lane. Then after we complete that survey, we are going to share back what we heard and along with it, a design that reflects the feedback. So we'll take everyone's input and kind of synthesize it and say, hey, this is the plan that folks feel makes the most sense. Then we will make some tweaks. Maybe there'll be some additional feedback that comes out of those meetings. So during the spring and summer, we'll have a second opportunity for feedback on the draft plan. And then ultimately, we're going to take this plan and try and apply for some grants to build this. So all of your feedback will really help to paint a picture for the need to do this project and help us hopefully be successful in winning some grant funding. So again, here's a link to the survey. And we're going to be, in addition to having opportunities for the public to comment, we'll also be presenting at RCO meetings. You may see us at a pop-up at one of the trailheads or in Bluebell Park when it gets a little bit toastier. And I think that's it. We're ready for any questions you might have. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing that I find, I have probably come up on my bike 500 times up through Rittenhouse Town.
Yeah.
Then I get on to Wissahickon, or I go up the sidewalk. That is the toughest part right there. I don't know what you're going to do about that. There are these bike lanes on I guess it's Walnut Lane, so you have space there, but it's really very scary, and not only on Wissahickon Avenue, after you come up from Rittenhouse Town, then you go past Walnut Lane, and it's very narrow, and there are these cars coming by very fast. I don't know how you're going to deal with that with the width you have there, but this is a place where I think more cyclists go than many other spots, and it's a very dangerous pinch point. And I'm surprised that multiple cyclists haven't been killed or hurt there. Just to give you my input to emphasize what I will say in this survey.
Thank you so much. Yes, another question.
Communications question. So beside this kind of meeting, are you using other logical organizations to get the survey filled out, like the Friends Villages and Weaver's Way and places like that? So you get a lot more feedback in the early stage?
Yes, thank you so much. We have met with, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so organizations that kind of touch the project area. And yes, we'll absolutely reach out to other places once we have a flyer ready to go. You guys are our test run here, so thanks. But that's a great suggestion. Thank you. In the back?
Not a question, but a comment, as somebody who drives that area a lot. I know traffic engineers like roundabouts. That particular one is a challenge because the bike lane kind of disappears and you're
Yes.
thrown into traffic. And my experience is traffic doesn't like bikes being in the lane. And so I regularly have people who zoom, so heading back into Mount Airy, into Germantown, to this side of the creek. People will zoom by me on the left and then immediately turn right in front of me to get out of the roundabout. And there have been times where I've had to pop up on the sidewalk because they didn't get it. So
Oh, gosh.
I will say this in my survey response, but since I had the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll repeat that in case the mic didn't pick it up for the folks online. So this person was commenting on the safety for bikes around the roundabout that's there today. And there being sort of, not adequate space and feeling unsafe riding a bike and sometimes having to hop up onto the sidewalk. So we'll absolutely be thinking about how we can improve safety at the roundabout to make sure people can, yes, another question. Sure, let me go back a second. So we are planning to have public meetings in the spring and summer. We will have a series of events. We don't have specific dates yet, but we have a project website that is also included in that survey. So you should be able to get to it and check back periodically for updates. If you complete the survey, we'll also capture your email address. So we'll let you know when those events are scheduled so you can come out and keep up to date. Anything else?
Saw a hand was raised in the Zoom. Oh, sorry.
Oh, one more in person and then we can go to Zoom.
Do you know when the Bells Mill Bridge is going to be done?
Ooh.
And have you given any thought to not doing that coincidental?
Yeah, so that's a streets department project. The Bells Mill Bridge, I believe, is starting construction next year or this year. No? Okay. Well, sorry, we just got the funding for it. That is right. It's on a, yeah, it's on a couple year timeline. So yeah, so it will likely have an impact because, right, Bells Mill and Walnut Lane are two of the main, yes, the only within Philadelphia on, that side of the river, connections. So we are, there are bicycle detours planned, there are vehicle detours planned. That is all coordinated as part of the design process. So, that is something that will likely take place in the coming years. So you will definitely hear more about that though.
No one will be able to drive anywhere in the northwest part.
Yeah, and to be, this will likely not be like a full scale reconstruction of Walnut Lane. We're not looking to, yeah, we may do resurfacing work, but resurfacing is typically on a quicker timeline. We are not replacing the Walnut Lane Bridge as part of this. It is a beautiful historic bridge. We would not dare do that. Yes, exactly. And then just to touch a little bit on the safety and roundabouts as well, Walnut Lane is a state-owned road, so we have to justify to the state, specific improvements. However, we are looking at improvements like raised intersections at those roundabouts, so that even if the option is better to ramp up to the sidewalk, the access to and across those sidewalks is safer for bicycles and pedestrians.
But is that state owned also? Bells Mill, the city street?
It is.
I believe it's, I believe it's, it may be one of the like shared responsibility. So the city has responsibility. PennDOT provides money for the city to do maintenance on certain places, but I'd have to double check on that for you. Happy to, our email is right. Well, you can reach out to the OTIS email, but we'd be happy to follow up about that. Yeah.
I anticipate that we will have a presentation from Streets at some
Certainly.
point this year about where they are in design. Here are concerns for pedestrian and bike safety on those bridges. These are the ones that receive the bipartisan infrastructure money. But those projects are just now, I think, getting ready to go into design. So,
Yeah. Yes.
I heard about that too.
I'll follow on to that. There's going to be a wonderful meeting on February 5th at Bennett's Island. You want to tell these folks since this is Wissahickon, it's another vital link connecting the circuit here about what's going to happen February 5th.
Absolutely. Our partners at the Streets Department Trails Unit are presenting updated plans and hearing comments and feedback on the Wissahickon Gateway Connector Trail. This is a trail segment that connects the Schuylkill River Trail behind the Wissahickon Transportation Center, which is the new bus center that's going in. We welcome you all to come. I believe it is 6 p.m. at the Venice Island Performing Arts Center. It's right off Locke Street and Main Street in Manayunk. We would love to see you all there. Come out and support, come out, ask questions. This is an active design project as well. But we do, I think the city recently secured construction funding for this project.
On that,
Mhm.
does that go between all of the buildings built,
Mhm.
the river, so it fills in the gap between the bus or the,
Mhm.
and does that take you all the way to the bottom of the street that comes down the hill in Rocks? So are you off the road, off of car traffic? That would be
It's
a
still,
mile and a half,
mhm,
something
it
like
is
that.
still not a full connector. It is bridging one of the crucial gaps. Yeah, it brings you from, where Kelly Drive starts
Yeah.
at Main Street, to the Pencoid Bridge.
To the Bedford.
To the Pencoid Bridge, correct.
That's better.
Exactly. Gets you off Ridge Street, or Ridge Avenue, on the 6-lane section. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
February 5th. I think that is February 5th is next Wednesday. Yes, next Wednesday.
Did we have an online question? before we move on? Okay, all right. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. I'm Pauline Berkowitz. I'm the project manager with FOW. And for the finale this evening is FOW's capital projects, looking back, looking now, and looking ahead. Better. Starting with our Valley Green Run Restoration and Pedestrian Bridge project. We've presented on this project for a number of years. This year will be the last. We're glad to have completed this at the end of last year. Here's a before and after shot of the conditions. And just to give everyone a sense of how long this project was in the making, in 2014 is when the stream bank collapsed and the pedestrian boardwalk was closed. I was still in college at the time. But that boardwalk was built by our structures crew and replaced the natural surface trail that collapsed 10 years prior. And so in 2015 was when FOW submitted its first funding application to begin fundraising for the project. And then in October 2019, we released our request for proposals. And then in the summer of 2020, in July, we executed our project contract. And then in May of last year, in 2024, is when we began construction. So over that 4-year period, there was design and permitting. The design of the bridge went through many iterations, making the materials more sustainable, making it longer. And in the summer of 23, we had a little bit of a hurdle with a permit refusal related to steep slopes. If you're familiar with the park, you know that there are a lot of steep slopes. But given that this is a restoration project, we filed an appeal, but that was a several-month-long process. And then ultimately taking us to May 2024 with construction. It was about a little over 6 months. And then on December 10th was when we had our ribbon cutting. So to give a project overview, the team for this project was led by Skelly and Loy. They did the design for the stream restoration as well as the general contracting for the project. Resource Restoration Group was the was the builder for the stream restoration, and they did a lot of excavation work related to the pedestrian bridge as well. CVM Next Construction was both the designer and builder for the bridge, and then Krieger Architects did donor recognition architect work as well as pedestrian bridge architect work. And so for the stream restoration, one of the cool features is that you can view it as you're walking along the bridge. This is not a bridge that crosses a stream, but it's a bridge that meanders with it. And so that stream restoration, like the pedestrian bridge, is about 200 feet long. The stream restoration include 9 boulder step pools, which are step-like structures that slow stormwater and collect sediment. Boulder bank revetments or stacked walls were placed at strategic areas along the bank to retain it. And as we do with any of our capital projects, native plantings. So with this one, 224 native shrubs. And then the result of this restoration was an annual pollutant load reduction of 11.6 tons of sediment, 35 pounds of phosphorus, and 39 pounds of nitrogen. The design features for the pedestrian bridge are pretty simple. Someone who is qualified to say so says that we used the best and simplest materials to have a sturdy bridge. So that includes galvanized steel, stainless steel, reinforced concrete, as well as wood decking. Black locust is a regional hardwood that's the hardiest for building. And there are also galvanized steel planks interspersed, which is part of our donor recognition program. There's still many available. We have 9 on the bridge right now. It's designed to hold 39, so. And then lastly, a third project element that we added later when we were under contract is the north approach. When you undertake a big project like this, it's disturbing to the area, to the hillside, as well as to park visitorship. So you really have one opportunity to get in and address the issues. And so in this area, there are a lot of stormwater issues, both with the steep slope there, as well as the infrastructure that wasn't quite connecting. So we installed new stormwater infrastructure to collect water off of Valley Green Road and go in a pipe underneath and out into the run. There's a beautiful plaza, which is a new trailhead at this location made of bluestone and granite cobbles. This is also a donor recognition area. And then a retaining wall that serves both to retain the hillside as well as provide seating for park visitors. And then lastly, a donor recognition plaque to thank and recognize all of the wonderful funders that contributed to this project. As you can see, it's a close to $3.5 million project that required a lot of fundraising, a lot of partnership and support from different state agencies, from the Water Department, Philadelphia Parks and Recreation, a number of private foundations, and many individual donors. So thank you. Yes. And now that we have that behind us, we're able to focus on what's next. So I will review our Germantown Neighborhood Connection project. We're still closing on some fundraising and hope to be in construction later this year. And then our Pachella Gully restoration project that we're doing in partnership with the Water Department, also continuing with some fundraising and hoping to release the construction for bid later this year. So the Germantown Neighborhood Connection project, it's in the name, it's located in the southeast part of the park, bound by Lincoln Drive, Harvey Street, the Chestnut Hill West, SEPTA Overpass, and Walnut Lane. This project came to us because of neighbors who love their woods, but there is a lot of short dumping in the area. The sidewalks are in disrepair, so it doesn't make for the best park experience. And so wanting to make this site feel like the rest of the Wissahickon, wanting to complete a greater connection to the main stem of the park. Currently, you can do that as a pedestrian going across the Walnut Lane Bridge, this location that Otis just talked about, and down into HRT. But in future phases, we'd like to build new trail down, where's my laser pointer, down behind the Houston Memorial, and then get you out on Wissahickon Avenue, which is across the street from Sailor Grove, to complete that connection. So we've been spending quite a bit of time here over the last few years, working with staff and volunteers to improve the park land, both in terms of trails and the habitat. We did a small reroute. We built a beautiful retaining wall with staff and volunteers, and continuing with our native habitat restoration. Currently, this project is funded by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Councilwoman Cindy Bass of the 8th District, that's her area, the National Recreation and Park Association through their corporate sponsor Sensodyne, the Clean Air Council, the Department of Community and Economic Development, and the Garden Club of Philadelphia. There's particular interest there because of the history of the site, which I won't get into too much. But much of the land that makes up the Wissahickon Park is private landowners who donated their land to the Fairmount Park Commission. And the woman, Jane Henry, who donated her land, was a member of the Garden Club, and it holds a special place in the Garden Club's history. And then the biggest part of this project is rebuilding those sidewalks and a brand new crosswalk across Harvey Street. And so the total cost of this project is a little over $500,000. We have close to $450,000 in funding, so we still have a bit of a gap to fill, but nevertheless, we are looking to release a bid for construction later this year. These are things that we've done. I want to highlight a new footbridge that went in, that was in 2023, built by our structures crew. The 3 stone staircases there are part of the foundation of Jane Henry's home that we restored, that are part of the trail system there. And so what's ahead this year, in addition to the construction of the sidewalk and the crosswalk, is doing some interpretive signage to honor the history of the site, and then continue infill planting and planting site maintenance as necessary. And then I just want to highlight a design detail for this project. Since the crosswalk will be brand new, there are existing sidewalks, so they are in disrepair, but the new crosswalk will be raised and have the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Those are both design elements to slow motorists down and allow for safe pedestrian crossing. And then next, we are moving north in the park for the Pachella Gully Restoration and Sedimentation Reduction Project. Yes, so on this map, you can see where the red star is. If you kind of like underneath where the word Harvey is, that's where the crosswalk would be, right across there. I'll take questions at the end. Yeah, thank you. So our Pachella Gully Restoration Project, which is behind Pachella Field in the Roxborough section of the park, is along this access trail. Access trails are what we call those connector trails or access trails that start at the neighborhood entrance up at the top of the hill and then all the way down to Forbidden Drive. They're important connection points for park visitors wanting to access other trails, but they're also very important for our municipal partners to be able to access infrastructure, utilities, and get into the park to be able to maintain it. And so over the last decade, we have seen a lot of stormwater damage in this area. And this area is of particular interest to the water department as there are 2 potable water mains below it, and exposing it from erosion is not a good thing. And so the water department has estimated about 22,000 pounds of sediment annually is being discharged in the creek as a result of this. And so we're looking to remediate that with a forested infiltration basin and a series of rock armored ditches. And I'll show you some design details on that in a bit. But just to talk about funding, the cost of this project is close to $1.5 million. We have 2 state agencies funding this. We have the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Schuylkill Restoration Fund. So putting our funding at a little over $1 million, so still working to fundraise to fill the gap. But then looking to the end of the year to tentatively bid out construction, and then construction would be no earlier than 2026. And then here are some design details. On the left is an image of the forested infiltration basin. It serves to capture as much stormwater as possible coming off the neighborhood streets, Henry Avenue. There's a lot of non-point source pollutants and other things that are in stormwater that we don't want in our waterways. And then so that forested infiltration basin will collect water, infiltrate it, and then other water will continue its way down the trail in a formalized ditch that gets down to Wissahickon Creek without causing additional damage or erosion to the trail surface. And then some other projects. We have park-wide projects going on in progress and future. The Wissahickon Valley Park Wayfinding Gap Analysis Project. This is ongoing. We're doing this with the National Park Service's Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. This was a technical assistance grant that we were awarded last May, and looking at making improvements to our wayfinding in the park. Over the last decade, FOW has invested over $500,000 in improving wayfinding and signage in the park. Some might remember the old tombstone-like structures that would guide you on the trails. Now we have wayfinding posts, we have kiosks that let you know how to move around the park, how to get to the points of interests. And now we're going back and seeing, well, what's missing? How can we improve how people get around the park with particular attention to our user groups? We have our hikers, we have bikers, we have equestrians. They all experience the park differently. So as part of this project, we've been surveying those different user groups to understand their lens for experiencing the park so that we can make signage improvements. And so that is ongoing. We're probably going to be completing that this May. So be on the lookout for changes, for some social media posts on how to read our signage in case you're confused. I get confused sometimes. So next we have our stream bank resiliency and flood study. So this builds on a report that was produced in 2017 or 2019. 2019. In 2019, FOW completed a capital project remediating 3 stream bank collapse sites along Forbidden Drive. And the consultant who worked on that project produced a report for us telling us what are the stormwater and drainage issues along the drive. There's over 400 incipient gullies, which are incursion points for stormwater that are damaging to the surface, that erode and create sedimentation into the creek. And so this study would take that report to the next level, not only for Forbidden Drive, but looking at the access trails like Pachella so that we don't have a future Pachella type project to see where is vulnerable to flooding, where can we make the drive smaller so that we have more of a riparian buffer, what are potential future bank collapse sites where we can get in and be proactive about some of the stormwater issues that we're seeing. So this study is currently funded by the Department of Environmental Protection's Coastal Management Zone Program. And we are doing additional fundraising with that, and we'll be hiring a consultant to undertake this study, releasing an RFP later this year. And then lastly, but certainly not least, these are status updates on projects that we've presented on in the past. Our restroom master plan pilot project, of course, is a continuation of our restroom facilities master plan that we completed a couple of years ago, looking at where are opportunities to build restrooms in the park. And so the WPA shelter at Rex Avenue was identified as that location due to the high traffic that is in that area. Having a plumbed restroom is a must. It can't be any other style. And so there are utilities in that area under Forbidden Drive, but building in the Wissahickon is always challenging and presents different complexities. And so working with our consultant on that project, working with the water department to understand where the best connections exist to be able to move this project forward. And then our East Falls reroute and habitat restoration project. This is looking at a heavily eroded trail entrance off of Gypsy Lane. And looking to build a stone staircase to both retain the hillside as well as create better access to that area. And then doing a small reroute, a little under 300 linear feet to have the trail be along the contour and then close the old trail and do a planting. And so we are fundraising for that. And then looking in 2026 per contractor availability. And that concludes my portion of the program, and I'll invite the speaker. I'll have some specific questions. Okay, in the back. Sure.
If that was going to be accessible to the equestrians, and I was told at that time, yes. I just want to make sure that that is.
It is, so the question was if there is equestrian access on the bridge at Valley Green. It is a pedestrian bridge. So equestrians would go up Valley Green Road and jug handle back down to access the upper trails, the orange and white trails moving north.
When I asked, this was a couple of years ago, and I wanted to say I like this bridge. It's much better than what was done at Lincoln Drive, which is no longer accessible to equestrians at all. And that was actually a big loss.
So the question is about the pedestrian nature of the pedestrian bridge. I have recalled getting a lot of questions. Is it going to be an equestrian bridge, and have never said yes on that point. The small bridge that crosses the creek is specifically designed weight wise and everything, the regulation that had to have equestrians go over it. This is replacing a use that was always a pedestrian access, and so it's pedestrian access. Now, it's the Wissahickon. It's very sturdy, but it was designed to be a pedestrian bridge. FOW doesn't have the authority to change trail use designation. It's not been something that we have been given. So that section there has always been pedestrian. So if there was a miscommunication on that, I apologize, but if you ride up the road and come back down the trail and the little bridge, you're more than welcome to ride over. Yes.
Lincoln Drive.
Lincoln Drive, the surface of those bridges were changed. It's very, so it's, and that was, of course, we always welcome the city's reinvestment in infrastructure, but that was a city Parks and Recreation project, not a Friends of the Wissahickon project.
Where is where the surface shows? The bottom surface. Is that on the?
So we're looking, so the question was about our East Falls reroute and habitat restoration project. It's right off of Gypsy Lane behind Wissahickon Hall and Lincoln Drive. Yes.
That time, the restroom plan was 10 box was like identified as like an early candidate. And now I see only the ranks.
Yes.
Find that, or is there any other thing Rex on the horizon?
So the question was about the pilot project for the restroom plan, and whether 10 box would be included. So for the pilot project, we've identified Rex because of its proximity to utilities and because the need to have a plumbed restroom. That doesn't mean that Rex will be the only restroom. We have a plan that IDs up to 10 to 16 locations for restrooms in the park. So we will be addressing them one at a time and seeing what is most viable, given the utilities, given the usership and heavy use that those restrooms would experience. Thank you.
I have a few online questions for you, Pauline.
Great.
Would you be able to describe, especially for folks online, how they would get from Harvey Street to the Wissahickon?
Yes. This question is about how to get from Harvey Street to the Wissahickon. So I will go back to our slides. And can you see my mouse moving around even on the screen? So
Yeah.
great. Okay. So we have two trail entrances to this little trail system. We have Harvey Street here, and then we have Walnut Lane. So if I were to enter the park at Harvey Street, I can go through the trails here. I can go up and exit on Walnut Lane. I would, have I turned myself around? I would cross the Walnut Lane Bridge and then go, thank you, on the sidewalk, not going on any unsafe passage, crossing, going and turning left on Wissahickon Avenue, and there is sidewalk there right now. And then I could turn in that driveway at Rittenhouse Lane, get to the bottom of historic Rittenhouse Town, and then access to the southern terminus of Orange Trail is right there.
Doesn't show Bluebell, we can cut through and be doing Bluebell.
There are other options.
That's true.
It doesn't show like Wayne Avenue.
Yes.
This is just our preferred way.
Okay.
The other one was just a comment on wayfinding improvements, and then I think I'll just, wasn't a question.
Okay. Great. Are there questions for any other part of the program this evening? Great. Well, thank you all so much for coming out online and in person.
So I want to thank you all for coming out. I would also very much like to thank Shawn for his great leadership and all of the work that happened this year. And also my thanks to Pauline Berkowitz, our project manager, who joined us in 2020 and led that big capital project of Valley Green Road from contract award to construction completion. So we're really happy you're all here. We're here with us tonight, and there's lots going on in the Wissahickon, as we've heard from PWD and OTIS, and we know that Streets has a lot going on, and hopefully we'll be bringing you more of that information throughout the year. But thank you all and have a great evening.